Hey there, my name is Yale Bass and I'm about to show you 8 different ways on how to prepare your heritage speaker students past the AP Spanish exam. And although most of our students, the heritage speakers, they have a strong foundation, they can speak conversely with their family members and their community members, sometimes they lack the academic touch of Spanish. So, and the organization of writing, presentations, comparing and contrasting. And so, yeah, if you're a teacher and you teach primarily to Hispanic heritage speakers, this video is for you. Also, if you don't know me, my name is Yale Bass, by the way. I was a former Spanish teacher of 5 years, and most of my content that I have on Teachers Pay Teachers is for Hispanic heritage speakers. That was my 95% of the students when I was a teacher, and I love teaching Hispanic heritage students. But anyways, the first one is compare and contrast, and this is what we did a lot of this. I taught one group of students in Spanish 2, and then a lot of my other classes were Spanish 3. I also taught a literature honors course, and the Spanish 3 class was called a pre-AP class. So when it comes to comparing and contrasting, you want to look at the transitional phrases, right? En primer lugar, en segundo lugar, para continuar, en fin, para concluir, sin embargo. All of these transitional phrases are key to comparing and contrasting verbally and on paper or written. So that would be my first thing, my first piece of advice. And I have a product on this if anybody is interested, if you want more structure and how to compare and contrast. I think if you're in the lower levels of Spanish, you can do this by comparing and contrasting objects, people, music, food. Make it fun, but the key is for students to use those academic transitional phrases. And you can even say that this is not unfamiliar. You have used these words in your English classes, and surely in those English classes they are learning these transitional phrases like first of all, second of all. It's not unknown territory. But yeah, I'll put the link to the TPT product in the description. Okay, the second one that I used to do a lot, and I think this helps a ton, and I will be very transparent here. I was not an AP Spanish teacher, but my coaches, I was a Spanish teacher in 2 school sites, and both of my coaches were the AP Spanish Lang teacher, and thank the Lord, they were so good, and I can attribute to a lot of my improvement to these people. And in fact, their students, well, my first school site, I think she got like 100% passing rate every year. And then the second school site, I think he was like 80% to 100% passing rate. So they have high passing rates for their students. And I think partly one of the reasons, I believe, is because there was this vertical alignment where they would coordinate and plan out and share some of the skills needed in the AP Spanish test and in the class, and have them practice those skills in the lower levels of Spanish. So the second one, sorry, that took a long time. The second one is recording themselves. And whether you're using Schoology or Canvas, any of these assignment platforms, I believe they have a recording option, and I know we had it for Canvas, or is it Canva? I don't remember. I get confused by both of those. I think it's Canvas that has the recording option, and it's super easy because you can grade on the spot. There is another option to record. Maybe I'll put it in the here in the video somewhere or in the description box, where students can record themselves. And the reason why this is essential and will help students prepare for the AP Spanish exam is because there is a recording component to it. And we are living in actually, we just have the generations that are coming forth after COVID. We're seeing students that are they're hyper aware, super self-conscious, insecure, and they just don't want to record themselves because they feel awkward about it. And I notice this in my own classes, and I've made my own mistakes of letting the students go outside or doing the recording outside of class, but you're just kind of accommodating and reinforcing that you're reinforcing their insecurities basically, rather than helping them, empowering them to overcome those insecurities. And something that I noticed is that the more we do something, the less awkward it is. And so when it comes to recordings, I truly believe do it like every single day if possible, or at least once or twice or 3 times a week, so that kids get comfortable recording themselves. And something that I would do in the class that I'm very proud that I did this, and I'm happy that students were receptive to it, is I had every student, after they wrote their script or whatever, I would just let them know that nobody goes to the restroom during these next 5 minutes. You can do 5 minutes without going to the restroom. And when the timer goes off, every single person will click record and will say whatever prompt they had, whatever their response is, and record themselves for 1 minute. And so after that minute ends, that would be their practice. And then the second time around, that would be their practice. And then the third time around would be the final one. And this allows students to make mistakes the first couple of recordings, and kind of gets their tongue warmed up. And because think about it, these kids, they're not speaking Spanish to each other with their friends. They're only speaking Spanish with their parents, and their parents are their trusted confidants, right? And your friends, you're in high school and everyone's hearing you speak Spanish. Like it's like a whole different world when kids enter your classroom, seriously. So you want to make sure the students are comfortable as much as possible, and letting the students know that you are allowed to make mistakes here so that you make less mistakes outside. But in order for you to make mistakes, you have to try. You have to press record and just do the thing. So let's empower our students to overcome their insecurities rather than allowing them to go to the restroom or whatever if they feel uncomfortable, or but it takes baby steps, right? You don't want to just be super strict and be like no, but creating an environment where the student trusts you and you want the best for your students, and that this is empowering them to overcome that fear, because we can't just live in fear all of our lives. So that's just something to consider. And that's the part of recordings. And you can have them record a short paragraph that they wrote. You can have them record a response to a question. It could be a daily vlog about what they did over the weekend, whatever it is. Just have them get used to recording themselves. Okay, number 3, argumentative essays. We all know that this is a huge part of the AP exam, and I don't know how much time they have. I think it's like 40 minutes to write an essay. It's very short, but the way that you could scaffold this in your Spanish department, because I think Spanish 1 Hispanic heritage speakers can definitely write an essay. Maybe not grammatically correct, but at least they're getting familiar with the structure of writing an essay in Spanish. And the reason why I say that is because in my first school site, I did not teach Spanish 1, but another colleague did, and she had students write essays. So it's all a matter of practicing and scaffolding the essays. So in Spanish 1 or 2, students can write a 3-paragraph essay instead of a 5-paragraph essay using 1 to 2 sources. And maybe they could write the essay twice a year or even once a year. For the Spanish 3 or 4 classes, they should be able to write a 5-paragraph essay using 3 sources, and maybe not having a time constraint for those levels. Or maybe you do. Maybe they are ready for that next level. But I never really had a big concern with the time, although maybe that would have been an area of improvement in my teaching, is empowering them to write a full-on essay for 1 hour and using the sources. But I never did that. So if you've ever done that in your Spanish 3 or Spanish 4 classes, let me know how it went or how it goes. Number 4, I think this one is an important one. Even for myself, I still struggle with this to some degree. However, it's to train students how to interpret audio. So, for example, play a clip that has instructions about a game, about an activity. You can even record yourself and have students listen to it and let them rephrase the instructions and maybe put it on a pear deck and let you know, okay, this is what is expected of me. That way you can see if they actually understood the instructions. So that's just one easy way to get students accustomed to hearing audio clips. Another thing that you could empower your students is to have them read or listen to audiobooks in their downtime, if there is any downtime, conversations in different dialects, or different accents. For example, the Spaniard accent, the Colombian accent, the ones that are most prominent out there. I think those are really good, getting used to the accents, because especially here in the United States, we have a large Mexican population. And I think sometimes, and I fell in this trap when I was younger too, is you just get into this bubble that you're just, the way that you speak in Spanish is just how everybody else speaks Spanish, but that's not true. Like, there's a whole world of Hispanics that speak differently and have different words for certain things. So that's just something to consider and to get them used to hearing it more often. And maybe that could be homework or just something that they do at the end of the day or every Friday. Just some ideas for you. Okay, so the 5th one is strengthen presentational skills with transitional phrases. And I think kids will appreciate you for teaching them this, because presenting things in front of the class is already an awkward thing to do for many high school students. And so giving them the structure on what to say and when to say it gives them a sense of ease, perhaps, or less stress or less anxiety. So, and it goes the same, right? En primer lugar, para continuar, en fin, gracias por escuchar mi presentación. Just giving them that structure. And I actually have a project. It's called the Colombia Presentation Project. It's a lot more than just the presentation, but it's like a research project. So if that's something that's interesting to you, I'll put that in the description box. It is on TPT. Okay, number 6, I already mentioned this, but I will emphasize it again. If you are an AP Spanish language teacher, have vertical alignment like a plan or something set in place that prepares students for the AP exam. So what does that look like? So what skills should students be focusing on Spanish 1, Spanish 2, Spanish 3, Spanish 4, and just go through each level and look at the skills needed for the AP exam and have each level scaffold it and modify it to their level. So yeah, there's a couple of resources that I found, and I'll put it in the description box. It's kind of like a description of the course and the test, and it gives you all the standards. And I think you can use the standards because it gives you the skills needed for each area of Spanish, so that might be helpful. And if you are a teacher of a lower Spanish level, I highly encourage you, if you don't have a vertical alignment in place, do it, and it will help your students pass the Spanish exam. And in fact, you have like when you have like this cooperative spirit with your group, with your department, it gives you something to look forward to. It gives students something to look forward to. Okay, this is the goal. This is the goal of passing the AP exam. Because a lot of folks might just be like, oh, I don't really need to take this class seriously because I already know Spanish. I don't need to know beyond. I don't need to know the academic setting. So putting the goal as, hey, all of these classes, Spanish 1 to 4, are helping you to prepare for that college prep class, for that advanced placement class, which will inevitably give you college credits. So there's a purpose beyond that. It's not just learning Spanish, but it is honing into the academic skills so that you can be successful on the exam and in the class. Drink your beet juice. Okay, so the next one is very similar to the earlier one that I mentioned on compare and contrast, but this is important. This is the cultural comparison task, and this, I don't believe this has changed much. They've had it since I was a teenager, and like they've had it every single year, and they still have it. And it's basically comparing two different cultures, compare and contrast two cultures. And there are so many purposes for this beyond that it's on the test, but also it helps students understand that there are different subcultures and different Hispanic cultures, and they talk differently, they eat differently, and they just have a different lifestyle than them. So what I would recommend, and I have an activity of this, it's called AP Spanish Cultural Comparison Activity. It's on TPT. And you start with a graphic organizer. You model a strong response. This is a huge thing because I remember the first comparison activity that I ever did my first year. I think it was like the first thing that I did ever, and I failed. Like they failed and I failed, and it was just so bad. So give an exemplar for them and go line by line on how to write a compare and contrast paragraph. Let students draft their own, allow them to make mistakes, and it is okay. That's why you're the teacher. You're there to correct them, and it's not a big deal. Just have grace over your students, have grace over yourself. Peer review using a rubric, revise, and then have them record. I mean, a lot of folks think, like a lot of high school students don't mind recording what they have written. I think a lot of them struggle with improvising, which is another opportunity to empower students that I didn't do as a teacher, but perhaps you can. Okay, last but not least, introduce AP rubrics and standards early. I'll leave those two links for you guys below that allows you to look at the standards. And it kind of gives you some direction of where you want your class. Okay, these are the skills that I need, and do the activities that I currently have, do they line up with these standards? Do they line up with the skills that they need in the AP level? So, and be transparent with the students. Like have conversations, regular conversation about the AP rubric, about the AP class, and telling them that this is an opportunity for them to practice those skills. Like it's all practice, 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 practice. No pressure, just do what you can and make mistakes, because that's how we will learn from them. Hispanic heritage speakers are a fun group, and I know it might be harder for those who don't identify as a Hispanic heritage speaker themselves, but I mean, I was one, and it was a lot of fun to connect with them, and I really enjoyed it, to be honest. And I did leave the profession for other reasons beyond the actual teaching. So if you want to check that out, you can in the next video. You can also check out my TPT journey. I'll put that in the somewhere here that you can check out if you have some extra time. But thank you for watching to the end, and I hope that these techniques or different ways help you in your journey as a Spanish teacher and help your students to be successful beyond just speaking Spanish, but also learning how to use it in academic settings, right? And you know, a lot of folks just want to speak Spanish conversationally here in the United States, but I think the fact that if you want to empower students to speak Spanish more appropriately and academically, and I just think I am 100% for it, because most students that are Hispanic heritage speakers, most of their families are immigrants, and most immigrants do not have a high academic level. Most of them probably finished high school, maybe primary school, and so their Spanish is a lot less academic. And so I think as a teacher, if you give them that opportunity to have a better Spanish than their immigrant families, and allowing them to have access to academic settings, professional settings, and if they feel empowered and they have a good vocabulary, they might be able to, they'll have access to more, I guess, more professional circles at the college level, at their workplace, whatever it is, right? And so, yeah, just keep that in mind as you go forth with this, with the job as a teacher. We have a unique challenge, but also a unique advantage. And so let's just hone more into the advantageous part. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hasta luego. Bye-bye.